Well, welcome to our Module 2 live session. It is 7:30 Central Standard Time, so we're going to go ahead and get started. I realize people are still coming in, but I want to make sure to respect everyone's time. As we get started, I want to do a quick sound check. It looks like, Andrea, you're the only one here right now. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yes,
Can you see the PowerPoint too?
yes.
Perfect. So just make sure to mute your microphones at this time. You can unmute them if you have if you want to participate in the discussion. It just helps to cut down on the background noise.
Even though I have on headphones, still muted.
Yeah, I can still hear some background noise.
Okay. Alrighty.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I forgot how to turn the audio.
So in this live session tonight, we'll be covering the live classroom expectations, important reminders, field experience reports, the planning cycle, observation recording methods, writing learning objectives, and the comprehensive lesson planning report that is part of your guys' weekly assignment for this module. So at this time, I would like you to introduce yourself. Tell me who you are, what type of program you are in, and if there is, if your favorite place to travel if money was no object. I could start by saying for myself, my name is Mike Hager, and I'm currently reside in Denver, Colorado. I have a master's degree in ECE and work as an administrator for our Head Start program here. If time and money was no object, I would love to travel to Brazil. My mom is from Brazil, and she talks about what a beautiful country it is. I would especially love visiting the beaches. So since Andrea, you're the only one who's here, if you don't mind sharing what type of program you're from, or what type of program you're in, or explorations, where you would like to travel, and where you reside.
Okay, my name is Andrea Brooks. I'm in the state of Florida, Holiday, Florida. I come out of Rasmussen in the Pasco County, Pasco County facility campus. If money was no object, I would like to travel to Hawaii, where I always wanted to go. And I am in the associate's degree program.
Well, thank you for sharing, Andrea.
Welcome.
Thanks for participating tonight. This looks like it's me and you right now. So, anything that you have questions about with the live session, just feel free to chime in at any point.
Okay.
So, live classroom expectations. So this course will have 2 live classroom sessions that I will lead to expand on the current module topics. These sessions are offered in this module and Module 5. The next live session will be Wednesday, January 31st at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. The purpose of the live session is just to engage with your instructor and your peers in conversation about the course concepts to further your learning. Interactive sessions encourage open dialogue, and questions are encouraged. If you cannot attend the live session, the video will be posted the next day. You just would have to complete the live session quiz to answer the questions that I ask during the live session presentation in order to receive full credit.
Okay.
So it's pretty, Andrea, since you're already here, you stay for the whole presentation, which probably will not take an hour since it's just me and you. You will get full credit for it.
Okay.
Do you have any questions about that?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. So just a couple important reminders. Make sure to look closely to the course calendar for due dates. I don't want to deduct points for late assignments, but the college policy is 10% deduction for each day that an assignment is late. This applies to discussion posts as well. Assignments are due at 11:59 Central Standard Time every Sunday. Initial discussion posts are due 11:59 p.m. every Tuesday. Discussion responses to peers are due by 11:59 p.m. every Saturday. For full credit in discussions, please respond to at least one peer, as well as any questions I ask. You are encouraged to respond to more than one peer in the questions other peers ask as you as well to expand your learning. Excuse me. Refer to the calendar for Module 6 assignments and discussions as they are different. Everything is due by the last day of class, which is Tuesday, February 6th. At this time, do you have any questions about that, Andrea?
I did, but I think it was answered while you were reading. Just responding to the peers, that we have to respond to one or two peers. But I know I've been responding to two peers, just trying not to miss a grade.
Yeah, I mean, one for this course is, is what I'm requiring. If you want to require, or if you want to do more, that's completely fine.
Okay.
Whatever you feel like you want to do to enhance your learning.
Okay.
I am pretty flexible.
Okay.
So, just want to check in. How's the class going for you right now, Andrea?
It's actually going good so far. I did have a little question for the assignment for this week. For the observation of the child. So it's just basically observing the child, what they're doing throughout the day. Basically. Okay.
Yep.
And just putting it in APA format, whatever we observe.
Yep. I mean, anything that you document.
Sure I'm doing it right.
Yeah. Yes. And always feel to reach out. Because we want to make sure that you are doing it correctly. I will. Is it what particular assignment, Andrea? Is it? Is it one of the reflection ones?
No, it's actually Module 2, the written assignment, observing the child. Let's see. Working on it now. I got a screenshot of it. Yeah, it's in Module 2. One is actually the written assignment of observing the child.
And right now, I can't actually go into the course because I am recording live. But Andrea, I will answer your question step by step in detail after this in email, and I'll let you know what I'm looking for.
Okay, yeah, that's just me. That's just how I do my work. That's how I learn. I'm just like details. I have to have a lot of details so I can know what I'm doing. So,
Yep. And I will write it out step by step for you.
okay.
Anybody who else has any questions about that assignment too, I will
Mhm.
probably just put it in the announcements, just so you guys know what I'm looking for.
Okay.
There's another assignment for an I think I'm going to be going over one of the assignments. Maybe it's the lesson plan assignment. I'm not sure.
Okay, I think
Um,
that's one of the assignments too. It's like starting the lesson plan, the first part of the lesson plan.
yep, and we will be going over that too. Because I did a lesson plan on my daughter
Mhm.
with the
Okay.
with the format, so I could just show you exactly what I guess I'm looking for.
Okay. Perfect.
So I will pretty much just mimic what what you guys could do.
Okay. And it says 1 or 2 pages, but if it's over 2 pages, is that okay?
Oh, it's always
Uh,
okay.
okay.
It, it's always good to go over, because then you know that looking at the rubrics and stuff too, making sure that you're matching your rubrics with,
Right.
if it's less than a page, then you might not get full credit. So just looking at the rubrics and making sure that you have that in mind
Okay.
to make sure that you're actually on the right track.
Okay. Yeah, just want to make sure I'm doing it right on the right page.
um, Other than that, have you had any takeaways for week one?
um, takeaways.
Anything that stood out to you? Any
No.
aha moments?
I did with actually one of the posts tonight. I was replying to someone's post on how they was saying that they use the themes in her center, how she uses it monthly instead of weekly because we do weekly themes, and I
Mm-hmm.
think that kind of stood out to me a little bit because it gives the kids more time to get engaged with the themes and to
Mm-hmm.
learn more.
Yeah, I mean thematic planning is pretty common
Mhm.
for a typical month. I know in our program that we do thematic planning, so we focus it on
Mhm.
so one month we'll focus it on community helpers,
Mhm.
and we make sure that our dramatic area, there's books around it. We have policemen come in to talk to the
Mhm.
children, just trying to
Yeah.
make it as enriched as possible. Um,
Yeah.
Books about community helpers everywhere. A lot of dress up stuff, a lot of
Mhm.
activities that revolve around that, making a badge, just
Mhm.
different things to enhance the children and to drive that really home with what we're doing as teachers.
Mhm.
Um, have you had a chance to begin your field experience?
Yes. Mhm. I started this week.
Are there any barriers around that?
Um, no, no barriers.
Good. If there is any barriers, just let me know. Last thing you need to do is start on it, you know, in week 4 and trying to finish it up all in a week or
Yeah.
two. Might be very difficult to do. I suggest not doing that, but
Okay.
you know, just trying to make sure that you plan your time accordingly.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my biggest thing. Trying to do timely manner.
So, like, now having said that, with the field experience reports, the key area of focus for each module, so each module field experience report will prompt you to focus on the key areas of practice. So be sure to examine it early, like I said, in each module to ensure that you know what to focus on when your upcoming field experiences for each reflection. At the end of the module, you'll report how many field experience hours you completed, along with a reflection on your experience. An overview of each module's key area of practice can be found in the chart that I am showing to you right now. Does that make sense?
So this is what we need to do for the field experience report at the end of each week?
Yep.
Okay.
And then just report how many field experience hours you completed, along with a reflection.
Okay. Now, is this something we, for each part, like located state policies, something we have to write on each one of these?
Yeah, it revolves around it. So, like,
Okay.
say if you're, in Florida, talking about what the policies are and the procedures, and even if it's, program, like what your program does, if you're observing that in your program, and what they do, and just stuff that really revolves around, policies, procedures, pretty much keeping, licensing is all about keeping the children safe, and safety measures.
Okay.
And for like the observation and assessment, which we will go in a lot more tonight, with how to do that and what to expect, and so forth. And like I said, any questions, just feel free to ask, and I could make sure to answer them step by step so you have the exact information.
Okay.
So, having said that, we'll dig into the material now. The planning cycle, this is something that was from the very first chapter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you've probably seen it. We covered this in the last module, and I just want to go over it really briefly, to make sure that you guys understand what it is for how to plan and what it really means. So, the very first thing that we do as observers, as teachers, is identify the subject, identify the child that you want to observe. It's pretty crucial before planning curriculum. You want to identify for who you're planning with. You want to make sure that you know a little bit about the child's development progress, possibly areas of growth, home life, what interests the child. And basically, you want to make sure what do you want to learn from the lesson is the biggest. What do you want to learn from the lesson is probably the biggest question. So, what is the outcome you want to achieve? So the very first thing is you want to identify. It is important to understand that this information so you can set attainable outcomes for the child as you develop your lesson plan. And the next thing is planning. Now that you've identified who you want to observe, with some background information about the child's development progress and interests in home life, you could plan. You should plan include aspects such as materials needed, step-by-step instructions, transition and support strategies, and environmental considerations. Writing out a plan is a good way to help see how it will come together. Um, and then the next thing is to implement it. The implementation of your plan will only be effective if the child is actively engaged with your plan. So that's kind of why it's important to gather information about child's home life and their interests. Because if you don't do that and then they're not engaged in your plan, implementation of the plan is pretty much going to be a failure. So, you know, try to revolve it around free choice time during play. Play-based learning is a good way for us as professionals, ECE professionals, to give us opportunities for the child to investigate and discover new skills and understandings. The next thing you want to do is to observe. I mean, being cognizant while each activity unfolds is very imperative of the rest of the cycle. We can ask the question as professional, what is working, what is not working, what learning is taking place, and how do I know that it's actually taking place? You know, just giving those little formal and informal assessments throughout the observation to your own self is kind of key. During your observation time, you should be taking a lot of notes of your observation. There are different ways for taking notes and observations depending on what you're looking for in the behavior of the child. I'll go into that a little bit deeper in the next slide of different ways of observing. The next thing is to adjust and differentiate. Each lesson can always expand with growth. You know, as educators, we just need to reflect on how we can communicate to meet the individual learning and development needs of each child. We can adapt the lessons to ensure to accommodate diverse learners. You know, what next steps we can bridge the lesson authentically into the child's home and community. As we know, the learning process doesn't end at school, and it is our job as educators to inform the parents and guardians of these children what we are doing so we can share this information with the parents at home. This does help build the child mastering the skill when there is dual support, not just from the teacher, but from the parent too as well. It really does help scaffold their learning. The next, second to last thing is to assess. You know, to complete the planning, you must reflect on what has worked. Were the outcomes met? How do we know? What does the child now know? What are the next steps in the child's development and learning goals? And then last but not least, you want to repeat the cycle. You know, and what could have changed so the lesson could have been more effective? Maybe you didn't gather enough information on the child's interests and family's lifestyle. For us, it's important to get as much information as you can see, as you can meet the outcomes that are attainable for the child. You know, what are your thoughts on that, Andrea? Do you understand the planning cycle?
Somewhat, I do. Like so basically for a lesson plan, we're supposed to observe a child for each lesson plan that we do.
Yeah, what you need to do is first, you know, identify what you want the child to learn, and then you just want to plan accordingly. So one day you might be observing the child playing free choice center with blocks,
Mhm.
you know, just making notes of how his behavior is with other children, how his behavior is with the teacher, and just making sure that we are taking notes
Mhm.
objectively instead of subjectively, and I could get into that a little bit later. Um, so basically, just seeing what the child is doing and observing it,
Mhm.
and then making sure to adjust um, if you're not meeting the outcome.
Mhm. So my thing would be just trying to find ways, activities to help the child develop.
And it depends on what you're looking for.
Mhm.
Might be, I'll show an example a little later today um,
Okay.
with my daughter of what I'm doing at home.
Mhm.
It could look different. There's various different ways you could observe and when to observe. It could be at, mealtime. It could be at when the child comes in.
Mhm.
You know, it's just depending on what you want to observe and what you want to get out of it and what you want
Okay.
the
So
outcome to be.
there's no right or wrong way then,
Nope, there's
basically. Okay.
no, there's
Okay.
never no right
Okay.
or wrong. No.
Because the one that the assignment now is this is what we're doing with the assignment for this week, and I just observed him the whole day up until from arrival up until lunchtime, basically for the first 2 days.
Mm-hmm. And what did you notice when you were observing?
Um, well, yesterday was like different from today, like in behavior, emotional wise. Like yesterday, he was like doing, good choices, things, and today it was like he didn't want to do anything. Like the attitude was different.
Mm-hmm.
So, um, a lot of
And
redirection today. So,
that's a thing with observation. You
mhm,
just want to gather a lot of information about
mhm,
the child before you start to actually plan on doing a lesson with them, if that makes any sense.
okay,
The relationship piece and getting to know the child just through observation is really vital to a successful lesson plan.
mhm, okay.
Is there anything else along those lines
Um,
that you have any questions on?
no, I think I'm okay right now.
Okay. So, when you're recording, there's methods of recording observation that you will read a little bit in chapter 2. So, in the last slide, I talked a little bit about observation. There is a section in chapter 2 that's devoted to methods of recording observation. So, there are different methods, like I talked to you a little bit about. In choosing an observation method, you must first determine what is that you want to learn from the observation. That's the very key thing. Um, the running record form and the anecdotal record are the most common forms of observation. So running record forms are just a detailed narrative account of behaviors or events written sequentially as an incident occurs. So basically, it's just like a play-by-play of behaviors and events as it is happening. And when we do observe our children in the classroom, we got to make sure that we are doing it objective observationally. So what I mean by objective observation is when the observer records the sights, sounds, smell, taste, and physical feelings of a situation. When two objective observers are observing the same situation together, they would have to be very similar sets of data. Each person is strictly recording facts that can be measured, tested, and proven. So basically, you talk about like little Johnny. So little Johnny gave the other boy a toy, and the little boy smiled. That would be kind of an objective observation. A subjective observation would be the little Johnny gave another boy a toy, and the child was happy. Basically, subjective observation is somebody's thoughts, ideas, or emotions and opinions of a situation. You really just want to make sure that you state the facts. Just because a child smiles doesn't really mean he's happy. So it's just really making sure that we know the difference between objective observation and subjective observation. So going back to the different methods of recording, anecdotal record is kind of similar to a running record. They're like short stories that educators use to record a significant incident that has been observed, can be written down after the behavior has taken place. That's the difference between the anecdotal record and the running record. Running record, you're usually writing it down play by play, while the anecdotal record, it can be written down after the behavior has taken place. Checklists, they're more of a formal form of assessment that allows an educator to notate the presence or absence of some criteria with no details of events. So basically, you probably have checklists in your center. Are the bikes in good repair? Make a check mark if it is or not. Are toys presented in a welcoming manner? Is the sandbox covered? Different things like that. Is old artwork removed for the month? Are the classroom walls clean? Stuff like that would fall more into the checklist form of assessment.
Yeah, we have that one every morning. We have to do that one, the checklist.
Do you have to do that every day?
Yeah, every morning when we come in for the playground, inside of the classroom, the stand area, yeah, the bathroom, stuff like that.
And that's, that's very popular. There's different programs have different checklists. For Head Start for us, there is so many checklists, it kind of gets overwhelming because we track if a child comes in with a bruise or with a cough or the sniffles. We do the playground checklist, we do the classroom checklist, we do the building checklist. There's just so many different checklists that we do on a daily basis. But it revolves around the safety of the children. There's also developmental checklists, which are assessment tools that list a series of criteria to indicate the presence or absence of specific behaviors representative of the children's development. Can Johnny recognize letter A? Or can little Johnny hop on one foot? Can he recognize a triangle? Can he recognize number 3? That's specific of what we're looking for as assessments. Kind of gives you kind of a guideline for developmental checklists. There's also the rating scale. That's a checklist that has been modified to include various levels of quality. So in Colorado here, we use Colorado Shines. It's a rating scale that gives centers different ratings. So like the highest rating's at number 5. So many teachers, you know, they assess that on the quality of the program. So what the teachers have, like as far as education, professional development, and so forth, as far as quality and what the classrooms look like and how much space there is. So a lot of that is measured during a rating scale. And then there's a time sampling. That focuses on problem behaviors to see how often they occur. So observer has a set time to observe the behavior and can check how often the behavior occurs. So that kind of goes hand in hand with event sampling, which is usually just a series of short observations to confirm the child's behavior pattern in order to provide suitable strategies to manage the child's behavior effectively. Pretty much just confirms that the behavior is happening at different times throughout the day. So with that in mind, and this is the question I will pose for the students that are not here for the online presentation tonight. The question is, which of the observation approaches and documentation methods do you think you will be most useful to you, and why?
So this is for the ones that didn't make the question.
Yeah,
Okay.
you could answer it too if you want to.
Okay.
It's you know, like you're taking observations right now.
Mhm.
My guess is, I'm not sure, but my guess would be you're probably doing a running record form. It's kind of something that's more play-by-play than
Yeah.
than any specific other ones.
Yeah, the running record would be close to the one that I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's the most common one too.
Mhm.
You know, it's a lot of rating, but it gives you a lot of detail too about what the child's doing and when they're doing it.
Yeah, it's been a lot of writing.
Is there anything else you want to add to that, Andrea?
No.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about SMART goals, writing objective using using the SMART goals. So when doing SMART goals, we want to make sure that the very first thing that we do is making sure it's specific, that the goals meet the needs of the children. Do you know exactly what you want to accomplish with all the details? Goals must be well defined, so be really specific when you're writing out your objectives using SMART goals. The next thing is it measurable? How will you know the goal is met? You know, it's that kind of that formal assessment thing. Does Johnny understand that the apple is red? How do we know that? You know, we could just ask, what color is your apple, Johnny, during mealtime? And if he doesn't know it, then you will know if it's met or not by him just answering it, a simple question like that. Is it attainable? The individual child in typical development, pretty much looking at benchmark, or is your goal a challenge, but is it still possible to achieve? So, 3-year-old who doesn't know their colors probably should start learning how to know each color. So is that is the goal a challenge still? Yes, because he doesn't know the color, but is it still possible to achieve? Yes, because he should be knowing that. Realistically, consider development appropriate practices, the individual child in typical development. Basically just looking at benchmarks for approaches to learning for the different children in the different ages. Is your goal realistic and within the children's reach? And then last but not least, when will the goal be reached? Consider a timeline to be reached in a week, a month, a semester, a year. So writing learning objectives using SMART goals kind of goes hand in hand with the last thing I'm going to talk about tonight. It's one of your assignments for this week is to come up with an example for, this is my example of the comprehensive lesson plan that you're supposed to create. I did one of my daughter using SMART goals. So basically, the name of the activity is promoting positive mealtime routines. She's 2 years of age, and it's in the small group setting. So using these SMART goals, these are the objectives I wanted for her to come out of this lesson. I want her to role play or understand good manners such as thank you, please, excuse me, more please, no thank you, you're welcome. Recognize her colors and shapes of different food at the table. The apple is red and it's a circle. Performing hand washing routines before mealtime, and to encourage trying new food at the table during meal times. With that being said, we got to make sure that when we're doing our SMART objectives that we're using adjectives to describe. So we want, like recognizing, performing, encouraging, role-playing, different things like that. We really want to begin with actually a verb instead of an adjective during that time. So once you know what the lesson objective goals, what you want to accomplish for it, then you move into the domain of the activity. So how are we going to get there? Using physical or fine motor development. Using, for me, it would be using a variety of fine motor methods such as utensils, forks, spoons, tongs, etc. And eating finger food or eating with your fingers, that all helps her fine motor skills, and it also is promoting good mealtime routines, which is the activity. And as you can see, you could set intellectual to identify shapes and colors through eating food. Example, an apple is round and it's red, so she's knowing the shapes and colors of the objective. And a couple other ones with language, implementation of visuals. I know a lot of early childhood programs use daily schedule board of the child eating at the table, reading specific books regarding to the food, just different things, washing hands. A picture board is a good visual, and just having that language and communicating with my 2-year-old with that portion of it kind of ties into my lesson here with this. Socially, is Annika learning to use adults as a resource to meet her needs? Or is she just crying? Does she offer to share food with peers? That's kind of more socially. Does she feel comfortable doing that? Emotionally, Annika learns to express a range of emotions and trying new foods. Is she happy? Is she scared? Is she relieved? Does she make a sour face after she eats the food? That's just questions that we want to look for when developing and the activity promoting this in the domain. Do you have any questions, Andrea?
Yes, one came to mind. Being that I'm doing the observation of the child that I have, but does the lesson plan for this typical lesson plan, does it have to come from that observation? Or can we just pick something
No,
that we know what the child needs to develop or grow in?
Ideally, Andrea, we want to have it
Okay.
come from the lesson plan, but in reality, that might not be, it might not happen, and that's okay.
Okay.
So, whatever works for you is, whatever works for you is whatever you're most comfortable with is what I would go with. It doesn't have to. Ideally, it should, but I understand that sometimes things don't go the way as planned, but it is what it is, and I think it's just good practice to actually do one of these instead of actually implementing it, especially if you're not comfortable right away.
Okay. I'll just try my best.
So yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be specifically to the child that you're observing.
Well, no, it's gonna be the same child, but the observation. Okay, how can for example, I know that he needs to work on recognizing letters. So, in my observation that I did from yesterday and today, there's nothing in there about him and the letters. So I'm saying that this comprehensive lesson plan has to come from something out of the observation to make a lesson plan on.
So, are you asking, does it need to come out of the observation?
Yes, to make this lesson plan.
Not necessarily, because sometimes you
Okay.
might not observe that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah, no, because sometimes you don't observe that, so no. You just, things that you might think that you would do as a teacher.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
put that on the lesson, and even if you don't see it, that should be fine.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
Perfect. Don't stress about it. Ask questions, and hopefully I can answer them to the best of my ability. And if I can't, I will find the answer for you.
Okay.
So, with that being said, do you have any other questions, Andrea?
The only thing is, what is the best way to contact you? Just through the course email is better, or text message?
Yep.
Okay.
And honestly, it's whatever is best for you.
Okay.
I'm fine with course email. I'm fine with a text message, I'm fine with a phone call. Phone call, I might not get back to you right away because I do have a job from 8 to
Right.
5 that I work. So, but usually if you text me or if you email me, I will get back to you, and I don't wait 48 hours. I usually get back to you within probably a few hours
Okay.
at the very most. If you text me, I'd probably get back to you even quicker than that. So that's usually the best ways to communicate with me. And I'm here for you to grow in this class and in your profession. So anything I could do to make it more, I don't want to say easier, but more, can't really think of the word right now. Yeah, I guess more easier, more convenient for
That
you.
works best for me.
Just let
Yes,
me
I
know.
will.
I mean, I'm definitely here. Sorry, I'm like choking on something. But yeah. If you don't have any other questions, do you have any more questions, Andrea?
No, not at the time.
But yeah, feel free, you or anyone to ask me anything about well, what you guys need to do and how you need to do it, and I will answer it to the best of my ability, and it should be good. I'm here for you to grow, and I want to say thank you for participating tonight, Andrea. I do appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I will end this live session, and we'll talk to you guys in probably in the next couple of weeks, and in course discussions and any kind of course messages if you guys have questions. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Have a
Good night.